So many moms feel stuck and isolated, like they've got to keep it all together and can't say how hard it really is. On Let's Get Real, we talk about the real stuff, motherhood, mental health, and everything in between, so you don't feel like you have to carry it alone anymore. Because in order to heal, we have to get real. If you're feeling overwhelmed, grab the Overwhelmed Mom's Guide. It's totally free and made to help you feel like yourself again. The link is in the show notes. Let's pick up where we left off. Here's part 2.
Oh, yeah. That's so good. And I think that paints a great picture of why this is so important because of what we're entering into in our culture, but also just the deep need of what we need as humans and coming back and reconnecting with that as we're understanding, like, we're not human doings. We are human beings and we don't know how to be. We don't know what that looks like. So I'm curious, what are some of the symptoms and the signs that you've seen when men first show up in your office? What has happened in their personal life to land there and be like, I need to get help and I need to figure this out?
Yeah, typically it is either a relational crisis, right? Their marriage is falling apart, or it is a professional crisis. They didn't get the promotion they wanted. They can't find the job that they want. They're unhappy in their job, but afraid to go searching for something else because we've narrowed their expressiveness really down to those two categories, right? It's either something's happening with the female in your life or with the romantic male in your life. Something's happening in your romance or something's happening in your work, right?
Yeah.
Typically not friendship. Women will come in with friendship issues, right? And disappointments in relational dynamics with sisters, brothers, neighbors, co-workers. The man does not present with that because he's not processing that.
Interesting.
It comes out as I'm unhappy at work or I'm unhappy at home.
Okay. And do you think that he doesn't even process the friendship part because most other friends that he has is probably operating the same way or where they're closed off?
Most are operating exactly the same way, right? I'm happy to say that there are some great men's organizations that have come to light in the last 10 years that are helping men to find the emotional part of themselves. But by and large, male friendships are focused around either participating in a sport or observing a sport or some kind of contest.
Okay.
So I'm either out on the golf course, the tennis court, I'm playing basketball with a bunch of guys. They're not talking about their emotional issues with their family, their work, their brothers and sisters, right? They're talking about things that they have watched, news that they have read, issues that are political. They're not bringing personal dynamics into the relationship. And the guy who does take that risk tends to get treated as a bit odd.
Oh, wow. That is very true, and it's so unfortunate at the same time, just from the isolation that gets fed, what it is that they're missing out on and getting to experience a deeper level of intimacy and friendship. But yeah, I'm curious, as you've met with these men, can you paint a picture, just kind of talk a little bit about what that process looks like for men who are finally like, hey, I need to figure out how to do this. How do I learn how to express these emotions? How do I even go about this and find other friendships where I can do this?
As I said, it's usually a crisis that brings a man into therapy. It's not an emotional need necessarily. It really is an emotional crisis.
Okay.
That brings them into therapy. Women will come in with emotional needs and longings. Men come in crisis.
Okay.
So the first thing is to manage the crisis. And in doing that, to validate the collection of feelings that are associated with that crisis. Therapy may be the very first time that a man really gets listened to and has his feeling states validated, right, legitimized. And also to be able to help that person uncover all the emotional experiences that they have been discounting, right? Typically, they have a bag full of those, all right? And then we kind of go back in history with all of those emotional injuries and uncover what's the consequence of those emotional injuries on how they're functioning today, so that they now have choice. If I can't uncover the injury that leads me, let's say, to be shy and hold back, that injury could have happened in preschool, right? I buried it. I'm not aware of it. And so I miss out on a lot of social stimulation and interaction where some guy would like to talk to me, but I send this body signal that I'm not open, right? So at the cocktail party, don't approach me. My body has already sent this signal that I'm not open. And so, the guy's going to go find somebody whose body sends a different signal and says, yes, I'm open. I'd be happy to talk with you. So It's really uncovering, all right, what signals do you automatically send out that impact the way that the other person sees you, interacts with you, relates to you. And
Yes.
that typically is really freeing and eye-opening.
Yeah, like I could imagine that initially, because it is the crisis that brings them in. And there's a level of safety to be like, okay, it's connected to the crisis, so I can talk about some of these feelings related to that. But then as they keep taking these next steps into it, I could see that there would be probably a turning point of experiencing a new level of freedom to be like, okay, my guards are coming down a little more. I can really dive into some of the childhood stuff and some of these wounds. And then I'm getting to experience the byproduct of doing this in my relationships to keep going. Like I would think that's probably what is happening for some of these men.
You're right on target. And then men have, I think, a higher level of curiosity. So once a man in therapy gets to that point, he really wants to dive in, right?
Wow.
He wants to speed up. He wants to, here's this experience and this experience, and what was the impact of this experience? And I remember my uncle did this and my grandmother did this. And it's like,
wow.
Okay.
That is really neat.
Huge piece of history that we can dive into that gives you permission to reconnect with the feeling states that you've cut off. So it tends to go pretty quickly after that.
That is really neat. I would not have guessed it, but then I could see as you're describing them, I wonder if it's part of this like competitive side, like, okay, this drive to keep going, that's being channeled in a positive way here. That is so neat. I'm wondering, what have you noticed as far as working with men who have been doing this work with you, and how it's transformed them and the way that they show up with their families, with their kids, with their wife? What have you noticed on that end?
So one of the things that happens, right, women say that they want a more emotional guy in their relationship. But the truth of the matter is, most of us do not. All right, because we have also been socialized that men who are emotional are not safe, right? if they go too high in terms of irritation, anger, that's not safe, right? If they go too high in terms of silliness, that feels like they're distancing and moving away, right? So we say that we want more emotional connection, but we also have not been educated on how to relate to that and how to manage that, right? So the guy that comes home and now is healthier emotionally and has had a struggle at work and wants to talk about that, right? I'm really offended because my partner really discounted everything I said in the meeting today, right? And I feel really hurt, I'm angry, I'm irritated, right? Typically, the wife will say something like, well, I'm so sorry, but, Joe's a good guy. I'm sure that'll, blow over by tomorrow.
So
right?
dismissing.
We're not curious, right? We're not curious. With our girlfriend, we'll be curious more.
Interesting.
But with the male, we are not curious.
I could see that. And yeah, just not really knowing what to do or feeling the pressure even of having to fix or rescue just because it's new. So it's like, I'm not used to seeing this and I have to jump into action somehow when
I have to take some action. And so I'll just give assurance instead of being curious, instead of, hey, sit down, tell me more. I'm really interested. I'm sorry that happened to you. We'll do that with our girlfriends, all right? But not with our husbands, not with our brothers, because it's odd.
And we're not used to that.
Yeah, it's culturally odd, and we don't know what to do with it. It could be dangerous if I help and facilitate going into emotional territory.
Yeah.
If there's been emotion in this relationship, because historically emotion in a marriage relationship is either going to be withdrawal or irritation and anger, right? So I've been conditioned that I don't want to step into that territory because it's not going to be safe for me either.
Yes, and you're not sure what you're going to get on the other end. Do you think, does it help if the spouse is also doing this type of work to you know what I mean, just to be able to figure out how to come together? And
yeah, it makes a huge difference, right? Because we also do not train women on what to do with the full range of emotional expression from a man. We are uncomfortable with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of myself in so many situations. I remember because my husband and I have been together for 20 years, and I remember in college, he would be like a clam, and I would be like, I am going to pry you open. I know there's something going on.
Right.
Also, I found out later in life that, I'm a recovering codependent. So I'm like, well, there we go. So this is classic codependent acting like I'm going to rescue, I'm going to fix you and fix your emotions instead of just giving him permission to feel, or even being like, okay, if you don't want to talk, that's okay. I'm here whenever you want to. But I was very forceful of because I felt so panicked of if I'm not in the loop or know what's going on, what is going to happen? So
it will be dangerous, right? It'll be
exactly
dangerous.
Feeling so unsafe. And then later on, when in our marriage, he would start to open up and share more, which was very helpful. But then I so resonate with what you're saying because I didn't know how to. No, I didn't know what to do. So that's why I think that it's really helpful. So what would you say is the best thing for a spouse who is married to someone who is doing some of this work and is able to share their emotions? How could she respond in the best way?
A natural place where you begin as a therapist to integrate couples work into that growth experience, right? Because as the male accesses feeling states, learns how to communicate those feeling states, the female needs to learn how to be responsive. And so basically it's a coaching strategy, right? Bring the couple in and facilitate coaching them on how to be able to share, listen, support, encourage, be curious, want to know more, help that spouse do a deeper dive, which brings the two people closer to each other.
Yeah, that's so good. And just that whole other level of intimacy, and like you were saying before, having more time to connect interpersonally, it's going to feed a whole other level of intimacy with your significant other. But we have to learn how to do this, because at this point, it used to be innate. However, at this point, decades later, it's no longer innate. We have to learn, because now our coping mechanisms have taken over, and it's distancing us or pulling us apart from each other. What have you noticed with dads, and how the healthier they get emotionally, how that impacts their kids?
Makes a huge difference, particularly for boys. In fact, I'm about halfway through a book that I'm writing for dads about how to raise your son. So it starts out with the traditional processes that have been used to raise boys, and it looks at 4 different types of fathers that have existed historically, and gives the father the opportunity then to look at their own father, right? How were you fathered? And then to look at the opportunity in front of them to father this boy that they have in a way that validates emotional expression, right? That helps to give coping strategies, because we all need to know how to cope with our feeling states and how to bring them out into relationship in a healthy way so that other people can hold them, right? I want to hold somebody else's feelings, and I want to be with them as they process through what do those feelings mean to them, and then what's the growth, right? Feelings come up for us because it's an opportunity to grow. They don't come up for any other reason, really. Feelings come up because it should be kind of a little reminder that you have an opportunity to grow. You have an opportunity to explore. You have an opportunity to mature, to change, to modify something that you've been told or that you've integrated from your history that's not working for you, right? So this is a little opening to develop something that will work much better. So you want to welcome that opportunity.
That's, really helpful to hear. And I'm so glad that you're writing about it, because it gives some guidance. And just, I hadn't really thought of emotions being an opportunity to grow. Yeah. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Because,
Here we are.
Yeah.
Opportunity to understand yourself, right? It's an opportunity to connect with another person, because if I'm expressing my feeling, if a boy is expressing his feeling, he needs a connection.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
He needs somebody else to be interested, to care about it, to kind of help sort through it, to reorganize it, to understand it, to appreciate it, to validate it. Feelings are real.
Yeah.
They're real.
I hadn't thought of how feelings really are the open up the opportunity for us to connect.
Right.
I hadn't thought about that. Just this key of connection in whatever we're experiencing. We need to connect with someone, and we will show it some way. But that is the deeper need. And I'm thinking with my son and with my daughter, but just trying to pay attention to that. They don't need me to leave and walk away and leave them with all of their feelings. It's their cry for connection and being like, I need someone in it with me. That's so good.
your physical presence, right, is the first step. It really is stop, right? Whatever you're doing, whatever the time frame is that you think you have to rush to, right, you really have to pause and validate, give that feeling state an opportunity to exist. Do I have to stay there and process it right at that time, right? And miss my train to New York and, miss my interview to be famous? No, right? I can gather and validate the feeling that my child is expressing, and I can really make time to take a deeper dive into that. And the child will appreciate that. I now have value, right? I have a guaranteed audience. Maybe mom can't do it right now, but I have a guaranteed audience that is really interested in what happened to me and learning about it and helping me to learn about it and process it.
That's beautiful. And it's so helpful to hear, because I know my thinking is like, oh, well, I have to every single time be able to do that, when reality is there's not always immediately you can't. However, it's the intentionality of circling back and being like, I need to reinstate and remind them like they matter, and I need to remember this and say, if I can't do it now, I can come back to it. I was talking with a friend several weeks ago, and I was telling her how, my kids are 5 and 3. So very young, the struggle getting out of the door. They're fun. And it is so hard to get out of the door, like quote unquote on time. So I have to leave. What I've been doing is creating more of margin and a buffer time wise to get out, because when I haven't done that, I get really frustrated.
Right.
And then I'm short with them. I don't have the patience. And then the meltdowns happen. And then I really don't have time to deal with it then. And so I was sharing with a friend, I'm like, I've been realizing how important it is to be intentional of creating more buffer so that I have at least a little bit more bandwidth to be able to deal with the emotional meltdowns. But yeah, it's still not all the time, but that little part and the little thing that I've been trying to implement has been really helpful to just slow down and be present and be like, hey, still have 10 minutes, and I can address this. But yeah, it's still very difficult. It's very hard. What would you say helps for parents, practically speaking, as far as regulating themselves and helping themselves calm down first? Like, what could that look like?
That's a great question. You're right. So there are two things, right? One is the reaction that you have in that situation has a history to it.
Interesting. Right? Yeah. Yes.
It has a history to it. So be curious about the root of that history. The history is not when this little guy started walking around. The history is way deeper back in your own history. So you find that, all right, and that gives you relief. That gives you more space. That gives you more bandwidth to cope with the need of the preschooler who's in front of you, and they're intense.
Yes.
Right? They are intense. They're not subtle at all. Right? They're intense and they have a need and they want attention right now, and they can escalate pretty easily. So you have to have more of yourself accessible. And when you have more of yourself accessible, you can validate the intensity that your child is experiencing. And I think that's key. So many times parents do not validate. All right. They say, you're being too loud. There's no need to cry. Right. They discount what the emotion is.
Yeah. Minimize, dismiss.
Is, right. If I'm anxious, if I'm intense, if I'm furious, I want mom and dad to validate it.
That is key. Like, that is huge. And what you're saying, that's like lighting up in my brain of like, oh, wow. First and foremost, that is something I can do right away.
Absolutely. And we are so quick to substitute something else, right? Stop crying, cheer up, everything's going to be okay, right?
Yeah.
Just recognize first, right, that I'm having a meltdown. I'm unhappy. I'm worried. I'm scared. Validate me.
Yes.
Right? I can see that you're scared, all right? It makes sense that you're scared.
Yeah.
And at the same time, right, there is safety for you, all right? I'm going to make sure that there is safety for you, right? So whatever the feeling is, I want to validate it first, and I want to then provide a resource.
Yes. Okay. That is super helpful and very practical. I can also see how when we understand, like you said, where that is coming as far as our history and that wound, like understanding our own story and really the messages that were sent. Like, what is the message being sent from my past that's coming up now? I feel like that can help with having even more self-compassion to be like, oh, okay, this is the message. This is where it's coming from, but that's not what my child is trying to do to me now.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's so helpful. Oh my gosh. I have really loved getting to talk with you about this. And I am curious where people could find you to learn more about your work and connect with you. And if you know the date yet of when your next book is coming out, I would love for you to share.
Well, you could find me through my website, right? And I'm happy to connect and talk with and interact with anyone. And the website is www.drvanderhorst.com. So that's www.drvanderhorst.com. And the website also has lots of information on it, all right? It has resources for books. It has resources to explain different approaches to therapy. You could find my current book there. You can also find it on Amazon. And the current book is a journal book, which is developed to facilitate you learning more about yourself. And it's different because the facing page is blank. It doesn't have lines on it. Most journal books have lines, expect you to be writing your responses, but trust me, right? Your brain holds information in terms of pictures, action, and language. So you can draw on that page. You can act toward that page. I mean, if you want to on that page, or I say, even if you want to tear it, right? You'll run the essay on the other side, but you can always tape it back together. So the book is for growth and understanding yourself. It's read, reflect, respond, the 3 R's of growth and change. You can find that on Amazon. You can walk into any independent bookstore in the world, ask for it. The publisher will send it to that bookstore.
Oh, that's so neat.
You can find it easily. I have a second journal book that will be coming out in January. And the Men and Boys book should also be coming out the 1st of next year.
Oh, wow. Okay, this is exciting. So there's already more resources available now, as well as more to come. That is really exciting. Okay, well, I will include your information in the show notes, so anyone listening who wants to connect and learn more, they will easily be able to access that.
Thank you.
Gloria, thank you so much for today and for sharing your background, your expertise, and just getting to get this message out there, because I know it's helpful for me just getting to have this conversation with you and plenty of other moms who are raising sons and who are married to a man. So yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Jen. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you. Well, friends, if this episode has spoke to you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Thank you so much for listening. I cannot wait to talk with you next time.
Thanks for listening to Let's Get Real. If you've been feeling stretched thin, stuck in survival mode, or like you've lost yourself in motherhood, I made something just for you. It's called the Overwhelmed Mom's Guide, and it's totally free. Inside, I walk you through simple steps to help you reconnect with who you are, find a bit more breathing room in your day, and start to feel like you again. You can grab it now. Just click the link in the show notes. You don't have to keep doing this alone. Let's take the next step together.